So this presentation is going to be talking about our entries that we had to do for class. So the first entry that I chose was entry number 2, which is what are the common trafficking patterns of this drug to the consumer, including manufacturer, cultivation, and transport, domestically, internationally, or both. So in the 1930s to the 1960s, farmers would grow opium poppies and sell them to pharmaceutical companies. And then the pharmaceutical companies would keep a little bit to themselves, and then they would transport what they kept to factories, which would then turn it into to morphine. And then from the factories, it would be transported to New York, where mafia groups would distribute to major U.S. cities. Then there's also a middleman, also known as the opium breaker, that will collect the opium and transports it to a lab, which will then be made into heroin. Heroin can be trafficked by illegal immigrants across the border who will hide it in backpacks or on their body or even in the soles of their shoes. At one point, I'm not sure if it's still happening, but they would put them into a condom or latex gloves or balloons, and then they would digest it, and then later on it would come out. And so in recent years, 3 major trafficking systems for Golden Crescent heroin have been identified by international drug control agencies. 1, which is Northern Route, 2, a Balkan Route, and 3, a Southern Route through East, West, and Central Africa. The next entry that I decided to do was entry number 5, which was how do people behave when they are under the influence of heroin, and what types of crime have been linked to people using heroin. So when people are under the influence of heroin, they may have secretive behavior, changes in appearance, extreme drowsiness or nodding off, slurred speech, paranoia, severe itchiness, and also some signs of bipolar. Some crimes that happen with heroin are violations of laws such as drug possessions, distribution, production, or manufacturing of drugs. Another theft, which is caused by the user when they need more drugs. So they will steal any money, property, etc., and they will sell and have more money to buy more drugs. And then lastly, the last violation would be driving under the influence. We then go on to entry number 6, which discuss the common demographics of those who abuse this drug. Are there any age, gender, geographic, ethnicity, or race commonalities? So there's such a wide variety of people that use heroin. And really, it's not just in one specific place because there are so many people that use it. Quoted from National Institute on Drug Abuse in 2020, according to the National Survey on Drug Use and Health, in 2016, about 948,000 Americans reported using heroin in the past year, a number that has been on the rise since 2007. The trend that is reported is mostly driven by a large group of young adults ages 18 to 25, but in the meantime, it has been declining among teenagers ages 12 to 17. Heroin usage is bigger on the Chicago and St. Louis area. They are seeing an increase in the amount of heroin seized by officials along with overdoses due to heroin. Heroin is also on the rise in urban areas amongst young adults 18 to 25. Next takes us to entry 9. So some common reasons why people, what they give for abusing heroin is because they no longer have access to opioids that they may have been prescribed to in the past, so they needed to get something cheaper. And heroin tends to make them feel better. So people who experience trauma, depression, pain, and anxiety are susceptible to using heroin because at first the heroin seems to solve all their problems. So after that, they just continue using it. So lastly, we go to entry number 11. So there are multiple different paraphernalias when it comes to heroin, and it's different for every method that they choose for heroin. So when it comes to injection of heroin, the paraphernalia needed is a needle, cotton balls, spoons or bottle caps, tie-offs, and a lighter. When it comes to smoking heroin, they need aluminum foil, lighter, candle, straw, and cigarettes. When snorting, they need a straw or rolled bill or paper or another small tube-like item. The street names for heroin is dope, smack, snow, China white, and there's multiple others. The reason that there's so many different slang terms for heroin is that drug dealers often come up with new terms in order to avoid detection by police officers. So I share all these entries because, one, it can help law enforcement decide where they're going to look for it being trafficked, and it will also help the public be more aware of street names and even law enforcement officers to detect if they overhear conversations. And just so the general population is more aware of heroin and like signs and why people are doing it and things like that. So mainly these are for the public, but as well as law enforcement. And it's just better to understand how heroin works and how they can get it and everything, so everybody is fully aware of how they are able to get it and how they can deal with it.